I want to get to the most important thing for this week, which is pitching. And I want you to remember this memory device: radio control piloting, helicopter, and airplane. Let's say, for the sake of discussion, that you are going to have one of the pitch meetings with one of the 16. By the way, if you go to a conference in LA, you might get 3 people to pitch. This is 16 people that you can pitch your game, your animated project, your feat, whatever. 16 of them. That's a crazy number. So I want you to remember this memory device, which is radio control, pilot, helicopter, and airplane. And what do these mean? Radio stands for research. If you're going to pitch to me, you probably aren't, you would go into my MDB page, you would go into Wikipedia, you research about me. And you will try to learn as much as you possibly can about me or the person you're pitching to. Why do you need to do that? Because now we come to the letter C, control, which stands for connect. The very first thing that comes out of your mouth when you're pitching someone is you need to connect with that person. And it can be, you know Bob? I know. How do you know Bob? By the way, I'll tell you, this is a true story. At MMFM, like 6, 7 years ago, a particular writer, a particular producer, what they had in common and discovered when they were having a meeting is that the producer's high school girlfriend had been the writer's college girlfriend. Neither of them married her, by the way. But that's a something, you know, that you sort of were sequential boyfriends to this girl. It can be anything like that. It can be, if you're talking to somebody that's very famous and very accomplished, give them a sincere compliment, a compliment that they will take as sincere. And a great example is compliment them on something they've done that is not the most famous thing they've done. If you're talking to Steven Spielberg and you're pitching to Spielberg, say how much you loved Empire of the Sun or 1941, as opposed to, I love DT. Everybody healthy loves ET. That's not going to register. So research the person you're pitching to and connect with that person you're pitching to. And why? It's a weird paradox that the person you're pitching to wants to they want to buy this. They want to buy this project that you're talking to them about. But they also have a zillion other projects. The average executive or producer gets 5 pitches or 5 projects a day. That's 25 a week. That's 100 a month. That's 1,200 a year. They need to whittle them down. If you have typos all over the place, your script's going to be thrown out. Don't give them an excuse to throw out your project. So they want to see who makes it through that gauntlet to go and be something they fall in love with. It's kind of like it's almost a damsel in distress and sort of like the knight in shining armor. The knight in shining armor has to go through a series of tests before he gets to the damsel in distress. Okay. The next step, after you've done your research, you've connected with a person, which now puts them, instead of, okay, what can I do to eliminate this idiot's project, to, oh, cool, this sounds like a cool person. This sounds like somebody that is in my quote unquote tribe. Now I'm interested in what they have to say. And the first thing you have to say is, why are you passionate piloting? P for piloting, that's for passion. Why are you passionate about this project? By the way, don't pitch anything you're not passionate about. You are just going to be collecting passes. These people can smell the lack of passion through a lead wall. Do not pitch something that you're not passionate about. Then comes, after radio, research, control, connect, piloting, passion, comes helicopter, which is your hook. And it's one of those where you're telling the story of this very famous person, and all of a sudden, and the person who brought down this bad guy was, a one-armed dwarf with a speech impediment. I bet you didn't know that, or whatever. It's the I didn't know that. The whoa, that gets my attention kind of thing. That's your hook. If you don't have a hook, you don't have a pitch. And I'll give you, this is one that I'm a pitch I'm working on. If you can do this before I do, God bless you. Captain Morgan, not the liquor, but the actual pirate, Captain Morgan, was minding his own business in Jamaica when a book in London is published about him, telling the true story of Captain Morgan and what a terrible human being he was. And he was so offended that a book told of the horrible things he had done, and he had done very well, that he went back to London from Jamaica, which is not a commuter flight, sued the author for slander and libel, and won. True story. This actually happened. That's a hook. That a guy who was guilty, imagine, I'm exaggerating for effect, if Hitler had sued somebody at the New York Times for saying bad things about him and won. It's almost that level of crazy. That's a hook. By the way, don't write things about Hitler suing. That's not what we're talking about. And finally, after the radio research, control connection, piloting passion, and helicopter hook, comes airplane. And airplane is the ask. You're pitching because you're going to ask something. And I want you to really sort of, hang on to this word. You're talking to Bob Johnson, but it's gone great. You have to ask Bob Johnson something. And the word you have to say is willing. Would you, Bob Johnson, be willing to, let's say you run into Bob Johnson at the elevator, it's at MMFM, and you're both going, up to the 7th floor spa. You have literally 45 seconds to pitch in your thing. You can condense this, by the way, the radio control piloting helicopter airplane thing, research, connect, passion, hook, and ask. You can condense that into 45 seconds. And the ask at that point would be, would you, Bob Johnson, be willing to take a longer meeting or do an email exchange about this project? The word willing is crucial. Do not say, would you like to? He wouldn't like to, but he'd be willing to. When you say, would you like to, you're begging for a rejection. Would you, Bob Johnson, be willing to read the treatment, read the pitch deck? Would you be willing to take a longer meeting? Would you be willing to, if you've gotten far enough, would you be willing to read the draft? Okay. And I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to show you what a thing that we have done, me and my writing partners have done, that have gotten us very much success. This is a project that we pitched starting in the middle of last year and managed to be very successful with it. We have a deal memo going with a major production company to turn it into a major television series. We're waiting for a much better one, but let me see if we can do it like this. This is a project that we did. It's called Perfection 72. It's a 1-hour drama series based on the unbelievable true story of the 1972 Miami Dolphins, created by. It has a log line. And by the way, notice how long this log line is. It's one sentence, a hell of a sentence. And at the end, I give what I call the comps. Succession meets winning time. If at all possible, when you're pitching a thing, try to say it's like this meets that, or a cross between this thing and this other thing. We talk about the series, we talk about the world, Miami in the 1970s, and the setup. Here is kind of like a quick visual representation of what we're talking about. Here we talk about what's going on societally in Miami at the time, in the early 1970s. We talk about the characters. Don Shula, here's what you need to know about him and think of This doesn't mean we're casting Ryan Gosling. It means that think of Ryan Gosling, a Ryan Gosling type, ideally Gosling, to play Don Cheadle. Jane Chastain, think of Miley Alcock. We'll talk about her and why she's such an important character. Mercury Morris, think of Kevin Hart. And by the way, Mercury Morris can be attached as technical consultant. We have that relationship with Mercury Morris. Joe Robbie, think of Andy Garcia, Bob Greasy. Here's something interesting about Greasy is, oh yeah, he's also legally blind, which is not something you expect in a quarterback. Here are all the other characters. Here's a quick summary of the pilot. We take a 55-page pilot and we turn it into what would be a page and a half in regular, Microsoft Word. And we leave always a cliffhanger when we're talking about the pilot because we want to know what happens next. Then much shorter, like essentially a log line for every other episode after that, so the person to whom we're pitching know that we have more than a pilot in mind. We've actually thought this through. Here's what happens, and we finish the season on episode 8. This is intended for like streaming kind of. Then future seasons, there's a log line for each season. We're expecting 4 seasons. And here's the book that we currently have as optioned, but we're going to get something else, almost certain. And that's that. The next thing you need to have, and let's this out, is, I hope I haven't lost this. Okay, let me show you the pitch reel. Pitch reel should be something along the lines of like no more than 4.5 minutes. And that's pushing. Here we go.
The 70s was when South Florida first experienced many emotional issues and historical events that still affect all of us today.
Despite the Dolphins' winless record, Miami fans turned out in style to watch their team try again against the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, and that's what your pitch package should look. By the way, a clarification on a pitch reel. It's okay for showing it privately to people to use copyrighted material because you're not exhibiting it. So this is in a private channel on Vimeo. It's not out on YouTube for anybody to download and watch. This is only for people that you want to share this with. Because if not, you're going to find yourself in a lot of legal trouble, which you don't want to be. So, I'm sorry I kept you guys a few minutes over. If you have any additional questions, pop them in the chat. We got a couple of minutes more, and then I'm going to let you guys go. But more importantly, please, please, please look into, if you have not already, the Miami Media Film Market Conference coming up. If you email me or email my assistant Abhi, ABHI, at camacol.org, we have a promo code for you that'll get you the VIP pass, super VIP sold out, the VIP pass for the price of like the Bare Bottoms Peanut Gallery pass, which will allow you to pitch your pitch to 16 major people who can get your project greenlit, financed, whatever. So let me check the chat, make sure there's nothing going on. Okay, there are no questions in the chat. This has been terrific, you guys. Just so you know, starting in the fall, we're going to be we're organizing to do this live in person over at Magic at the Wolfson campus of Miami-Dade College. And it'll be a longer, more detailed series. We'll go into, we'll do a session on the first 5 beats, the second 5 beats, the third 5 beats, a lot more character development, that kind of stuff, to help you guys move forward with your projects and your career and so forth. So thank you again for everything. If you have any questions, my email is in the chat, my assistant's email is in the chat. Feel free to shoot us a message at your convenience, and I hope to see you guys at the Built One. Bye-bye.